Hey guys, it's takasta here again. Welcome to another video review. So today I'm reviewing the new ambidextrous line series from Zowie. This is the Zowie ZA, and it comes in three shapes: ZA11, ZA12, and ZA13. So this is not a refresh like the FK series, but it is very similar to the FK. I have the Zowie FK2 here, and I'll be doing some comparisons. In terms of just video reviews, sorry, this has been one of the first videos I've released in a long time, 5-6 months. I just want to know what I've been up to. I just started work, busy with work, so I haven't really had time to really buy a lot of mouse, play with a lot of mouse, and been making a lot of video reviews. So hopefully I'll get some time, and here is my review of the Zowie ZA. The one I have here is the Zowie 12. I only bought one of them, but I have tried all of them, and definitely it's quite nice that it can fit for people with different hand sizes. So off with the specs first. It does sport the 3310 sensor from Avgo, the normal stuff from Zowie, really. Huano switches, 1000 polling rates, 1000 polling hertz. They did change the scroll wheel a little bit, and the design definitely is a little bit different, which I'll talk about in a little bit. You can also change the DPI settings from 400, 800, 1600, and 3200. So this is slightly different from their initial FK series, where they had really odd DPI rates. However, in their newer series, such as the EC1A, EC2A, and the Zowie ZA11, 12, and 13, they're implementing this relatively more standardized DPI settings. Onto the weight and the shape, maybe. Because it was released in three different sizes. You can see in these pictures here, basically they took a quite nice approach to their route, actually. With the FK series, they released the FK1, FK2, so two different sizes. Same with the EC. So the ZA, I think, is quite smart for them to take a similar shape and basically implement three different shapes. So if you can see in these, the ZA11 is the biggest, the ZA12 is the smaller, ZA13 is the smallest. So if I had to make a comparison, maybe the FK12, the FK2 I have here is similar to the ZA12, and the ZA13 is more akin to maybe a Kinzu, if you use that before, in terms of the size and the feel. The ZA11 is slightly bigger. It's kind of like the FK1, or maybe you're looking at a more like Kana shaped, or even slightly larger, even a Sensei shaped mouse, actually. In terms of the weight, it is 90 grams for the ZA11, 85 grams for the ZA12, and 80 grams for the ZA13. So not an extremely heavy mouse, and it's fairly light, actually. And to be honest, I quite like it. That is slightly lighter. It's not like heavy, like 110 grams, 100 grams, which you see maybe like heavier mice such as like Logitech, for example. Moving on to the overall build quality, comparing to maybe the FK2 I have here, the build quality is actually quite nice. However, it's slightly different. Everything you would find in the FK series or ZA, very typical Zowie design and Zowie build quality. In terms of the cord, it is still a very soft cable, so it does not tangle, which is actually quite nice. It's one of the nicer cords, I think, out on the market. In terms of the surface, I think it's slightly coarser, though. It's similar to the FK1, I think, but not similar to the FK2, actually. The surface, when you first use it, if your hand's slightly dry, you might feel the surface slightly coarse. It's not as smooth, slick as the FK2, for example, I have here, or as slick as the EC1A or the EC2A. I actually have the EC1A, but I haven't gotten around to doing a review on it. But definitely, if you have tried those mice out, the surface on them is much slicker, much smoother. However, on the ZA series, I think it's slightly coarser. It's slightly a better grip, I think, in terms of the material, but definitely slightly different. So you do have to keep that in mind. Onto the scroll wheel, maybe the clicks. The clicks they use as Huano switches is slightly harder. I think it's actually not as hard as the FK series. I think this is to do with the implementation of the shell, actually. For example, the EC1A, EC2A, the implementation of the Huano switches there is actually very light, almost like Omron switches, and it's slightly more crisper. On the FK1, or the FK series in general, is slightly harder. On the ZA series, it is actually quite light. It has that similar Huano feel, but I think it's slightly lighter than the FK series. This is just like my personal opinion. Alright, onto the maybe a firmware, or actually the shape of the mouse, I think, is probably most important. In terms of the shape of the mouse, they did take a slightly different approach, very similar to the FK. However, if you can see in these pictures here, they move the hump a little bit back. So I think when holding the mouse, my hand is actually 19 centimeters from tip to base, so for the ZA12 is definitely the most suitable for me. ZA11 is slightly larger. It's not saying it's not suitable, but personally I actually like a slightly smaller mouse, like the Kana V2 actually. And the ZA13, I think it's if you're looking for a much more claw grip like the Kinzu or like something that fairly small, I think the ZA13 would be good for you. The palm of the mouse, it is much more of a palm, hybrid palm slash claw grip. The hump of the mouse really fills up, is slightly towards the back rather than the middle. If you can see over here in these pictures, the FK is actually quite flat, and then the top, the apex of the mouse is actually in the middle. Whereas with the Zowie ZA, the apex or the top of the mouse is actually towards the back. So this would be akin to maybe actually like the SteelSeries Sensei, the CZ Kana, slightly more like that. And that those mice, the hump is actually towards the back. So if you prefer actually a mice that actually fills up your palm a little bit more and not as much of a claw grip, the ZA is definitely a way to go compared to the FK. I'm sure if you used the FK before, it's slightly flatter, slightly more forward kind of grip. But with the definitely with the ZA, I feel like my hand actually comes back a bit. And if you like resting your hand backwards like this instead of going forward, it's more of a claw grip, I think this would be actually quite nice. Other design subtleties, I think, is actually quite, in the front of the mouse, this is actually quite interesting. They put, I guess there's a small indentation here which actually allows you, when you like lift up your mouse with your fourth finger, or whatever your left hand or right hand, your fourth finger actually like hits this like the slight little part slightly. So actually when you're like scrolling the mouse, for example, it helps just ever so slightly to pick up the mouse and move the mouse and stuff. So actually that's like actually quite a nice little feature. Maybe other points to note. Same lift-off distance, switches, everything else is basically the same thing. One thing I do like about Zowie in the newer series, you can adjust the lift-off distance by holding a couple buttons and plug the mouse in. This is something that, which in terms of moving on to the firmware, which is really, really nice. They don't need any firmware, but with a couple of settings, you can adjust the pulling rate, adjust the DPI settings, and also adjust the lift-off distance slightly, that you can change from ranging from 1.5 millimeters to 1.8 millimeters, I believe. So overall, I think just to conclude this mouse in comparison to the FK, if you've used the FK before and you like the FK, I wouldn't mind recommending to you trying the ZA series actually, because the ZA series is slightly more akin to that of the SteelSeries series design and akin to in that the palm of the mouse is actually more in the back, whereas the FK is more in the forward. I think personally, in terms of the gaming, I have gamed with the ZA quite a bit, and you can see I've roughed it up a little bit. And if you ask me which one I prefer, I played mostly Dota 2. Which one I prefer? I actually like the FK2 slightly more, just because I like that the palm part is more in the front. But if you're more like a you like the palm part to really fill up your palm a little bit more, I think the ZA series would definitely be very, very nice. To be honest, like I can use both of them and I perform just as well, but I think just slight personal preference, I prefer the FK2 shape a little bit more. FK2 as opposed to FK1, and probably like switch out the switches as well to Omrons or something. Okay, so hope you guys actually enjoyed that video review. I haven't been reviewing videos for a long time, so that hopefully has given you some insight onto the ZA series. I think I bought their mousepad as well in the EC1A series, so I'll probably be doing a review on that sometime soon. So hope you guys liked that review, and please subscribe if you liked it, dislike it if you dislike it, and if you need mouse feet, make sure to check out our store at iTakTech.com, or our eBay store, or iTakTech as well. So thanks for watching, guys.